Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill Littauer. Here are some of our top stories this week. Parking fines go up sharply in the village of Mamaroneck.
Town employees get their pay raise, and the Thruway Authority is changing driving habits for Mamaroneck residents.
A standout business in Larchmont and a housing controversy in Washingtonville.
Those stories and more coming up, but first our top story. If you play fast and loose with the parking regulations in the village of Mamaroneck, beware. Getting caught can be costly. That story and more from Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme.
Village of Mamaroneck has a new parking fines policy. The basic rate for any violation will double. Instead of $5, it will now cost $10 if you offend the law. A second violation within 24 hours is $15, and if someone happens to get another ticket during the same 24-hour period, that parking ticket costs $30. The village board hopes to better balance this year's budget with the additional revenues. Early in the morning on Independence Day, the state legislature in Albany approved a sales tax hike that will be effective as of October 15. The tax will go up to 6.75% in most of Westchester, including Larchmont and Mamaroneck. We are still a little bit better off than our neighbors in Mount Vernon and Yonkers, where the rate already is 8.25%, and in New Rochelle and White Plains, where you pay 7.25%. All this week you can watch the 93rd Larchmont Race Week, which is hosted by the Larchmont Yacht Club of the waters of Long Island Sound. The race week schedule started last Saturday and will continue all the way through Sunday, wind permitting, that is. Under the right weather conditions, the participants in the races should have a very special time. We'll have more about the race week on next week's edition of our news program.
Mamaroneck town non-union employees will get pay hikes ranging from 5 to 5.25%. 16 employees are affected by the order approved by the town board. Among top town officials, Administrator Stephen Altieri will now get $72,000, Finance Director Carmine DeLuca $51,500, and Police Chief Paul Munch $60,000.
Those of you who live in Mamaroneck, especially those in the Harbor Heights section, have probably noticed a few changes set in motion by the Thruway Authority. New lights have been put up on Fenimore by the train tracks, and 2 new lights are up on Mamaroneck Avenue. Residents coming from the Heights toward the village can now make a left onto 95. Coming from the Harrison side into the village, you'll notice that the I-95 ramp is only a southbound entrance. The northbound entrance has been closed.
There was a pro-choice rally in Larchmont recently. Barbara Brown has that report and more news.
Women were called to band together to stop any laws restricting their rights to legal abortion. Polly Rothstein, Executive Director of Westchester Coalition for Legal Abortion, was one of the 3 speakers at Informed Choice fundraiser at Larchmont Avenue Church in Larchmont this month. The other speakers were Francine Stein, Director of Planned Parenthood of Westchester and Rockland, and Dr. Irving Rust, Medical Director of Bronx Planned Parenthood. 300 women heard Rust and other pro-choice advocates vow to forego federal subsidies and continue discussing abortion options with their patients. Dr. Rust said that women should not allow anyone to tell them what to do with their bodies. He speculated that if women were denied the legal abortion option, they would simply resort to illegal and life-threatening back-alley abortions. No anti-abortion groups were present. Francine Stein called for women to pressure their elected officials to fight against abortion restrictions. She advocated writing to Senator Daniel P. Monahan and Senator Alphonse D'Amato. Representative Nita Lowy, who attended the rally, also advocated writing to elected officials, as well as President Bush. Angry Mamaroneck residents do not want the Bonnie Briar Country Club to be developed. Concerned residents attended the last 3 hearings on a draft environmental study that examined the possibility of rezoning the Bonnie Briar Club and the Wingfoot Golf Club. Bonnie Briar is the focus of community concern because the club's majority owner, Bernstein and Associates, has said it wants to build townhouses when the club's lease expires in 1998. The new recreation zone would allow the development of 75 detached houses at the 147-acre club while preserving 9 holes of golf. Under this new zone, 171 homes could be built at Wingfoot. which would also lose 9 holes. No development proposal has surfaced for that club as yet.
There's a new controversy over affordable housing in Washingtonville. For more on that and making his debut here on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News is Wensley Vincent.
Mr. Robert Quamley, a longtime resident of the village of Mamaroneck from 124 Center Avenue. And Mr. Quamley, it seems you have a problem with this building, 731 Old White Plains Road.
Yes, we had a fire in '86 and in February, and had a fire, and I tried to get money to finance to get the building fixed. I was unable for the various reasons. They said they didn't have loans available for multiple dwellings, and I put in for it, never got an answer. And I've tried, but they did a lot of fixing up around in my neighborhood, but it seemed as though I never could get help, you know?
All right, so do you think this problem is racially motivated or politically motivated? Or?
Yes, I think it's racial and political problem here. That's what I think is wrong. You see, they only, to me, seem as though they only help who they want to help, or certain peoples.
All right. Do you have any idea of who is conspiring this? Who is trying to stop you from getting money to renovate this building?
Well, no, I never tried to find out who. Only thing I know, I never got an answer, and there's a lot of fixing up going around in my area, and I never been successful in getting help to do any financing or fixing up in my property.
All right, thank you, Mr. Quamley. Yeah. And there you have it.
If you live in the village of Mamaroneck, you're going to pay more for water, 10% more. The rate has already gone up 6.2% in the town. The higher rates will help pay for such capital improvements as a new Rye Lake pumping station.
There are many nice-looking businesses in Larchmont, but one of them stood out just a bit in June. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Joyce Sutherland tells us why.
Every month, the Larchmont Beautification Committee gives an award to the most tastefully designed businesses. This month, Soily Reap, owner of Salon Northern Lights, which Soily means, I understand, the first name, a hair and nail salon at 30 Chatsworth Avenue, and so therefore you were honored, and deservedly so. I've seen the shop, and it is beautifully done. So congratulations, Soily.
Thank you, Joyce.
And you had, before you came to the United States, you were born in Finland.
Yes.
And you had a shop in Helsinki. Did you design it a little bit? I know it is the Scandinavian style, which I like. It's very unlike most beauty salons.
Okay,
very plain and lovely. And
I used mostly natural materials there and bright colors, almost everything white and natural wood, and then I brightened it with cotton materials on the walls and bright flowers and red awnings and
yes, you had a big
wood lettering on the wall outside.
You had a big picture in the paper yesterday
yes.
of the blue and white flowers in the front of the shop and the red awning. And it was it's very attractive from the outside also.
And we also sell finished giftware, glassware there.
And you do pedicures and waxings?
Pedicure, manicure, waxing, everything for the hair. And
well, I can also attest to the fact that your stylist is very good, the one who cut my hair.
oh,
she did
thank
an
you.
excellent
yes,
job.
I try to
really
find the best workers to my
She
place
was-
to
it was
please
a-
the Larchmont ladies.
It was an excellent cut. It really was.
Okay, thank you.
And so I congratulate you again.
Thank
and
you,
we're very
Joyce.
glad that you could come on, and thank you very much.
A plan to help homeless school children is in danger of being canceled by the U.S. Department of Education. For more on that subject, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter John Heffernan.
A pilot program intended to improve the education of nearly 1,000 Westchester school children is in danger of folding. The program, which includes the Mamaroneck School District, would offer homeless children the opportunity to attend a single school for 1 year, instead of students bouncing from one school to the next. Due to the effects of the fiscal crisis, the U.S. Department of Education has informed the program not to count on a $135,000 federal grant. Supporters of the program say these potential cuts would mean a tremendous setback in helping children get an education where they really need it.
We are adding a new feature to the news, the announcement of all new babies to the Larchmont and Mamaroneck communities, and by new members we mean very new. So proud parents of newborn babies, come by or send a videotape, and we'll have you and the baby on our show. And tonight we have Marjorie Salzberg and Scott. Hi, Marjorie.
How are you?
And this is Scott.
This is Scott. Scott's 4 weeks old today.
Happy birthday, Scott. He looks so content under the lights. Do you think that means anything?
I think it's going to be a calm night for him.
Is that all? I would say that perhaps he's a future TV star or something like that.
Well, that would be nice. That would be nice.
Marjorie, you've been in the community for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you up here?
Well, we left the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and we wanted to come where the schools are good, and we wanted a small community, and the commute is great. So, process of elimination, we chose Larchmont.
You have another little girl. I think she's crying. Should we bring her here?
Laura, you want to come here? Want to come in? Okay, you just stand right
Come
still.
to the camera.
Stand right here.
And this is your baby brother. Do you like him? That's great.
Laura's going to be 5 in September.
So where did you come from?
The Upper West Side.
So it must have been very different living down there and having 2 children?
Yeah.
This is your third child?
This is the third. I think it's a big change, but it was a fast adjustment. It really was.
Oh, and here comes
the other one.
3. Hello, Jonathan. Do you want to come and look at the camera too?
Turn around, okay?
Could you tell us what was the difference in bringing children up?
It's a lot easier here in Larchmont. Everything is more accessible. The parks are great. The schools, your choice of schools, even getting into a nursery school,
right.
this versus Manhattan is great.
I hear that. Well, thank you very much for coming up.
Okay.
And maybe when he's a little older, he can have another.
He can work with you here.
Yes, that's great. Thanks a lot for coming. Bye,
Thank
kids.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
There was some extra action during the fireworks at Mamaroneck Harbor on the night of July 4th. A small patch of brush just across from Harbor Island in Orienta caught fire. It burned brightly for about 5 minutes until firemen arriving by both land and sea could douse the flames. No one was hurt, but it looked a lot bigger to spectators watching the fireworks. The fire was probably touched off by someone playing with private fireworks. Bill?
If you're looking for a bargain, you might try the Discovery Shop in Larchmont. Everything is reduced 50% this month, and all profits go to the American Cancer Society. It's a resale store, and donations of winter merchandise are being accepted now. And at Anderson's bookstore, you can now buy the Larchmont Manor Park coloring book. Created by Betty Page, it shows such landmarks as Umbrella Point and Pirates Cove. Well, 250 children have signed up for the Flint Park Day Camp this summer, and the village board has approved hiring 6 more counselors to take care of them.
And continuing our summer segment on Kids at Camp, here is Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jamie Stein.
Hi, I'm sitting here with 8 campers on our second report on camps. What camps do we go to, guys?
Beachfront.
Okay, and what's your name?
Allie.
And your?
Matthew. Michael. Chelsea. Marcia. Susan. Alex. Simon.
And what do we do at Beach Point? I'm going to ask each one of you what you guys like to do at Beach Point, because we have a lot of fun stuff that we do there. Allie, what do you like to do?
I like to play jail and tie people up at the playground.
Wow, and what do you like to do, Matt?
Do lapses with Mike.
And what do you like to do?
Do arts and crafts. Swim laps.
Wow.
Collar.
What do you like to do, Chelsea?
Arts and crafts.
Alexandra, what do you like to do?
Swim.
You like to swim? And what does Simon
I like to swim laps with Hank.
Okay, and what else do we do at Beach Point? We play tennis, right? Yeah. We play tennis. And Susie, do you know what time we go to camp?
9:15.
And do you know what time we end?
It's 3:30.
Wow, and we have so much fun, and they're so good, and we really like it. So everybody wave to your parents. Thanks for joining us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Jamie Stein.
Should the town of Mamaroneck have a police commissioner as well as a police chief? LMC News spoke with Town Council member Elaine Price.
Town Board is seriously considering and studying the issue of whether we need a police commissioner or whether we should have a police chief. But while we're studying it, there are many misconceptions that abound concerning this position. Police commissioner in the town of Mamaroneck is not an extra position, nor does it cost the taxpayers extra money. Our supervisory personnel has been decreased. Since 1986, we've added 3 patrolmen, more patrolmen on the job, and this position is not an extra one. We have taken a lieutenant, made him the chief, and made the chief a commissioner. The structure is the same as many structures in Westchester County. Captains and chiefs, we have a commissioner-in-chief. Pay scale is the same. Our department overall is cost-effective as compared with other departments. So then what's the difference? The difference is accountability, and that's what we're looking at right now. The police commissioner is accountable to the town board, as every department is in the town. How do we keep politics from entering into it? 2 ways. We've done something in Westchester that's never been done in any other community. We have a professional administrator to administer the day-to-day operations, keeping the politicians out of the local running of town government, and we have effectuated a very tough ethics code where town employees, including the police, cannot contribute to our campaigns. That has not been done in New York State. And no town in New York State has a town administrator. So that keeps the politics out of the situation. How we are going to be asking our police their opinions, and we want input from them before our decision is made. And it will be made with their concerns, their interests, our interests, and the taxpayers' dollars very much in mind.
And that's our report for this week. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill Littauer. We've seen some new faces on our program this week, and we not only want to welcome them, but it's a good way to point out that we're all volunteers and we're always looking for new talent, both in front of the camera and behind it.
Why not come on down and join us next Thursday evening about 7 o'clock. We're in the Palmer Avenue building of the Mamaroneck High School, just across from Walter's Hot Dogs. No experience necessary, and we're all learning together. And if we don't see you in person, maybe we'll see you again next week on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Thanks for watching.
Join us then. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Bill Littauer.
And I'm Bruce Weiner. Here are some of our top stories this week. We're all being asked to conserve water.
The Weaver Street firehouse is literally sinking out of sight.
A protester protests the dropping of criminal charges against him.
The Mamaroneck Town Council studies further cutbacks for next year.
We have a new landmark and Donald and Marla come to visit. All the dirt coming up.
But first, our top story. The long, hot summer is taking its toll on our water supply. Sven Oehme has that story for Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News.
Westchester Joint Waterworks is asking its customers to voluntarily restrict the watering of their lawns. The company serves about 12,000 customers in Mamaroneck, Harrison, Rye, and New Rochelle. Under the restrictions, customers should refrain from turning on their sprinklers on Mondays. Residents living in odd-numbered houses should water their lawns on odd-numbered days. Residents in even-numbered houses should do so on even-numbered days. Again, these restrictions are voluntary conservation measures, but if the very dry weather conditions continue, mandatory restrictions may be imposed. Reservoir levels at the moment are at 79.8% of capacity, that is 13 percentage points below normal for this time of the year. Car thefts are on the rise in Larchmont. While 15 years ago a stolen vehicle was reported about once a month, now it's almost up to one a week. Most cars are taken from the parking lots at the train station. The Larchmont police force has increased the surveillance of those lots, but a constant presence there is not possible. The best protection against car thefts is an alarm system, or taking an old, small or inexpensive car for the drive to the station. A plan to expand the Bozell Plaza parking lot in Larchmont has been delayed. Some paperwork concerning a lease agreement between the village and the Metropolitan Transportation Authority had not been completed properly. Already agreed upon changes to the contract between the village and the MTA were not included in the documents presented to the village board. As a result, the village board had to delay its decision until the next meeting, and it will take a little longer till the new parking spaces will be available.
If the cutbacks in state aid weren't severe enough this year, they may get worse next year. And the Mamaroneck Town Council is already trying to come up with a plan to deal with them. The council held an extra meeting last week to come up with some suggestions for the 1992 budget, which starts January 1st. The town could face another reduction in aid of $400,000 to $500,000. One possibility would be a reorganization of the highway department that could reduce the number of jobs. The council is also studying a retirement incentive program. That might not reduce the number of town jobs, but it could reduce the payroll because higher-paid older workers would be replaced with lower-paid younger people.
A Village of Mamaroneck man was arrested last week after police say they saw him leaving a house that had just been burglarized. 22-year-old Charles Reeves of 729 Old White Plains Road was reportedly discovered in the house at 260 Grand Street by its owner, Tony Lays. Police had been staking out the area because of a rash of break-ins, and they say Reeves almost ran into their arms as he fled the house.
You would think someone would be happy that criminal charges against them were dropped, but that isn't always the case. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Barbara Brown has that story and more news.
William Christ was dismayed that charges of trespassing at a pro-choice fundraiser 2 weeks ago were dropped. Christ wants his day in court. He complained to Larchmont Village Justice Harvey Brown that his arrest was subterfuge and that he would seek some type of counteraction. Christ has been an anti-abortion protagonist for 22 years. He was arrested on July 1 outside Larchmont Avenue Church, where Informed Choice was holding a fundraiser. Preparatory work on the reconstruction of the century-old boathouse of the Horseshoe Harbour Yacht Club in Larchmont has begun. The boathouse was destroyed by fire in April. James Fleming, the architect, said that it would replicate the original one-story wood frame building in Manor Park. Club trustee Carl Pierleone, who was overseeing work at the site, said that bids would be taken for the boathouse construction by the end of the week.
There was another development last week in the town council's controversial plan to sell 2 lots adjacent to the Leatherstocking Trail. Several members of the Conservation Advisory Commission trooped through the woods behind Knollwood Drive for a first-hand look. The council had planned to offer a total of 1 1/3 acres of woodland for sale to developers through an auction last June. However, after neighborhood residents pointed out how close the lots were to the trail, the sale was canceled and further study was ordered. After the brief walking tour, I discussed the issue with Commission Chair Louise Perez and Council Member Kathleen Tracy O'Flynn.
Let me ask you first, what was the purpose of the tour today?
The purpose was to come and look at the property that is owned by the town that they were considering selling off.
What did you see, and what are your first impressions?
Well, we saw a lot of wooded area. It was very rocky. A lot of it was on the downside of a hill. It looked great the way it was in its natural state.
It's right along the Leatherstocking Trail to the Sheldrake Nature Preserve area. Kathy, as the liaison to the commission, what's your initial impression or your thinking at the moment as also a member of the council?
Well, I think that the commission as well as the town board is very concerned that property that is immediately adjacent to the trails not be disturbed. And we were surprised when we heard that this property is as close to the trail as it is. So that's why we asked the Conservation Advisory Commission members to come out here and take a look and give us their opinion as to whether they feel that part or all of the property should be sold. It's excess property of the town, and then we'll make our decision based on what they recommend to us.
The Conservation Commission will make its recommendation to the council this fall, and the council will then have to decide what to do with the woodland.
The hot weather has made a lot of us want to head for the beach, and many of us did just that. Attendance at Manor Beach was up 60% in the first 18 days of the beach season. Beach manager Ralph Santaloquido says the water is much cleaner, and that makes it much more inviting on a hot summer day.
The Mamaroneck Town Council has commissioned a $3,400 study as to whether a dehumidifying system can be installed at the Hommocks Ice Rink to extend the skating season. The problem is that when the rink is open in warmer weather, fog begins to form on the ice and water vapor condenses on the rink's metal beams. Town Councilman John McGarr says all that water can age the 2.5-year-old building prematurely.
Nearly 100 firefighters turned out on a sweltering summer day last week to fight a blazing fire at 38 Grove Avenue in Larchmont. The fire tore through the top floor and roof of the Victorian Manor home. There were no injuries, but the entire roof of the 1897 home was destroyed.
It seems the volunteer firehouse in the village of Mamaroneck won't be as expensive to repair as we were all led to believe. For more, Larchmont and Mamaroneck Community News reporter Roger Norum spoke with village trustee Beth Hofstetter.
Last November, the village of Mamaroneck was given the news that possibly it would cost up to $200,000 to repair the firehouse, the volunteer firehouse on Mamaroneck Avenue, just down from the Hess gas station. And we find out this past week that the repair job is only going to cost $6,000 or $7,000, and that the volunteer firemen can go back to the firehouse, only not to put such heavy equipment on the floor. At the same time, this news comes after the election, and a lot of people say that perhaps Beth Hofstetter was cost the job of mayor in Mamaroneck because of the volunteer firehouse. And with us now is Beth Hofstetter. Beth, what do you think about all this?
Well, I'm very grateful and very happy on the part as a trustee in the village that we've been able to save the village over $220,000, which was the initial and only estimate or scoping budget that we got for volunteer firehouse. And as you know, that was such a way out figure that I insisted that we should have at least other alternatives. And it took a long way to do that, but we finally have gotten them through the help of the interim manager and the acting manager at the time, and now the present manager, Matt Galligan, who in fact said to me just the other day, this never would have happened had he been the village manager, because you always get at least 3 proposals for any particular job.
How does something like this, though, happen in such a disparity between $6,000 and $7,000 and $200,000?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and in fact, it's the question I'm raising today on this show, and I intend to raise at the next board meeting. I think that we should have an investigation as to how that came about. I am very dissatisfied with the work of the 2 village engineers in this matter, and frankly in several others. But this one, their work or their lack of work and lack of following what I think are appropriate procedures to get other options and less expensive ways of dealing with the problem, and present the board with a list of possibilities and make a recommendation perhaps, but at least give us some choices, was very poorly done. There was no supervision on the part of the engineering department. Initially, when the sidewalk was first broken through in the wrong place, there was no follow-up on the part of the engineering department by the vote of 3 of the majority on the board. When we asked for other alternatives, they stonewalled, they didn't do it. And I think it's a very real question as to why this was able to get as far as it got and to almost tear this community apart. And the thing that I think disturbs me the most is that it was not just for one firehouse, but this would have been, so to speak, the pattern to fix the other 2 firehouses. So it's really, in essence, about $500,000 or $600,000.
But the volunteer firehouse on Mamaroneck Avenue is deemed relatively safe now after some minor repairs that have to be made.
It's deemed quite safe. It's open. I just drove by it. It is open. The men are able to go in and use it. It probably could be used for the apparatus, but to be on the conservative side, the village manager has said, let's do the little bit of repair work that seems to be required, which would amount to $6,000 or $7,000, and then the apparatus can go back in. And I really think that the 2 engineers should resign. I would like to see their resignation over this issue. They did not serve our community well, they did not serve the taxpayers well, and they certainly didn't provide the staff information that we need as a board to make appropriate decisions for any of us on the board or for the community to have to sit through what we had to sit through in order to get to this very small, minor conclusion. And making a big deal over nothing in the end, it really saddens me.
Well, speaking of firehouses that need repair, it seems that Weaver Street Firehouse is sinking into the ground. The 59-year-old structure was originally built to house 2 fire trucks. It now houses 5 vehicles. Mamaroneck Town Council member Elaine Price is quoted as saying one wing is sagging so badly that a marble placed at one end of the meeting room would roll on its own to the other end. A feasibility study of repairs will cost $24,000 to $30,000. The Weaver Street Firehouse is home to 14 paid members and 85 volunteers.
Last week was Race Week at the Larchmont Yacht Club. Our Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has a rundown for us.
Last week you could see some great sailing in Larchmont. The 93rd Larchmont Race Week was going on, and that's why we have such a big crowd here tonight in our studio. And to my right is Commodore Vincent Montesano, and to my left Commodore John Mendes. And we'll start with you. You are the historian of the club, I heard?
Yes, I'm the historian of the club. And when you say Commodore, he is the current Commodore. I was Commodore back in '54 and '55. And every now and then people say, oh, you're Commodore. And I said, no, I was Commodore so long ago I've forgotten about it. But it's a pleasure to be here with this group of young people. And, you know, Race Week is a fabulous institution in the community. This is our 93rd Race Week. And the club itself is into its 112th year. And it's just going through periods like any club, any business. You go through cycles. And the club has been in a very growing cycle for a great number of years now, which we're all proud of. The club grows in stature, it grows in its traditions it's had, it goes in, as I say, the 93rd Race Week. You look at this attractive young group about me, the future of yachting is assured, and we're very happy about it. We're proud to be a part of it. We encourage them.
Good. Commodore Mendes, could you tell us a little bit about last week's events, what was happening, what was going on?
Surely. Last week, being the 93rd Annual Race Week, we started off on the Saturday with both the One Design divisions of senior sailors as well as the cruising yachts. We had a race in each division that day. On the Sunday, we repeat the same thing. We have a race for each division. And then the following Monday was the start of our junior race week, and all of these people were part of our junior race week last week. We had junior racing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Thursday, we brought in the very little people in the Optimist yachts, which are the funniest things and really neat little people sailing these tiny little boats. A great regatta that was. Then on Friday, we went back to our One Design. Saturday and Sunday, One Design and cruising, wrapping up 9 straight days of racing.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and I hope you have a good race week next year.
Thank you.
Continuing our summer segment on Kids at Camp, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jamie Stein.
I'm sitting here with 4 children from Mamaroneck, and they go to Breezemont Day Camp in Breezemont, and I used to go to Breezemont. So will you tell me your names? This is?
Sam. Ben. Lacey. Melissa.
And I used to go to Breezemont, and I was a duck. Is anybody a duck here?
Me.
Melissa, you're a duck, so what do you like to do at Breezemont?
Well, I like to go swimming and do photo and stuff like that.
Wow, and what do you like to do, Lacey?
I like to go swimming and boating and cook out.
Neat. And what does Sam like to do?
Cook out.
Canoeing?
They don't go canoeing. Basketball.
Basketball. Wow. And Ben, what do you like to do at camp?
I like to go to cookout, photo. I like what they cook there. They cook hamburgers and hot dogs at cookout.
Wow, that's neat. And how do you get to camp? Do you take a camel?
No.
No. How do you get there?
Bus. By bus.
Neat. And what time does the bus pick you up, Ben?
Probably 5.
8:05 about? And is the trip long on the highway or no?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's not.
I get to camp by bus, and he comes at 8:40. He's supposed to be there by that, but he comes late. Sometimes he's here about 9 or 9:50 something.
You notice these beautiful uniforms that they're wearing? Is this a traditional camp uniform that they wear every day?
Yeah.
And what's your group called?
Scouts. Rays.
And
Truckies. Ducks.
Wow. Well, thanks for joining us, you guys. Now, let's wave to your family and friends. Thanks for watching us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Jamie Stein.
The Mamaroneck High School cupola is getting a facelift. For more on that story, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Monique Citron.
Mamaroneck Larchmont School District logo, the cupola, is having a facelift. The cupola is the dome structure topped by a weather vane on the Boston Post Side Road of Mamaroneck High School. This architectural structure now represents the district. The logo is embedded in lucite paperweights and given to visitors. It is also represented on chairs given to retiring board members and on certificates given to volunteers. The restoration is part of a $7.3 million district project to repair its buildings. Besides the cupola, this summer's work at the high school will entail installing an elevator and renovating offices.
The Donald and his intended were in Larchmont recently. Here with the scoop on the Donald and Marla is Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Enid Pretter.
As residents of the Larchmont and Mamaroneck area, we all quietly take pleasure in knowing what a wonderful area this is. So to me, it was no surprise when last weekend Donald Trump and bride-to-be Marla came into town for a visit and to sample our fine restaurants. It seems that the Donald and the Marla had stopped into Hunan for some Chinese. But as for what they ate, well, it seems that appetizers and drinks were on the menu, and along with the steamed dumplings, the Donald munched on 2 orders of honey chicken wings, his new favorite food in Larchmont. The couple was dressed casually, and after saying hello to a few patrons, they ate just like everyone else. Well, almost. This is Enid Pretter reporting for LMC-TV News.
Each week, we end this program by urging you out there to come join us in this volunteer organization. It's become almost a joke here when we say we're in the Palmer Avenue building of the high school just up the stairs from Walter's hot dog stand. Well, we mention Walter's because almost everyone knows where it is. It's something of a local landmark. In fact, it is a landmark. County Executive Andrew O'Rourke says it has been placed on the Westchester Inventory of Historic Places. It's been cited as the county's best example of roadside architecture.
So now that Walter's is such a landmark, use it to find your way up here next Thursday evening about 7:30. I'm Bruce Weiner.
And I'm Bill Littauer, and we'll look for you on the air at this same time next week.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Arthur Trowbridge.
And I'm Enid Pretter. Among our top stories, the water shortage goes dry.
Jamie's back with her kids at camp.
The Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce is mad about the new parking fines.
Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. But first, our top story. Women in the Larchmont-Mamaroneck town community still have reason for concern. At around midnight on July 17th, a Larchmont woman was raped in the Palmer Avenue parking lot of the Mamaroneck High School. The suspect, Mauricio Carranza, 27, of Yonkers, was arrested around 3 p.m. by detectives Robert Holland and Mark Gironda. It seems Carranza was familiar with the woman he allegedly raped. Carranza's genetic code will be tested to see if it matches with what was already collected. While he is waiting, Carranza will be held on $20,000 bail at the Westchester County Jail in Valhalla.
If there is to be another police commissioner in the town of Mamaroneck, he will be current Police Chief Paul Munch. The Mamaroneck Town Board has given Munch the powers of commissioner, but not the actual job. The Mamaroneck Town Board had not, since the taping of this news show, made the decision of whether or not to keep the only police commissioner post in Westchester County active. The commissioner post has been a hotbed of controversy in the past several weeks, as the Republican opponents to the all-Democratic town board say the commissioner post is a waste of taxpayers' money. Paul Munch has been with the Mamaroneck Town Police Department since 1971. He was promoted to sergeant in 1978, lieutenant in October of '84, and chief of police in 1989. Arthur?
It seems our water supply has gotten better. For more on that and other stories, here's Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme.
If you were confused by water restrictions, voluntary and mandatory, at the beginning of last week, you were not the only one in our area. First, the Westchester Joint Waterworks had imposed voluntary restrictions on the use of water. Then, 2 days later, the Westchester County Health Department imposed mandatory restrictions, which were lifted before most people realized that they were in effect. The reason for the restrictions was not a drought problem. Reservoirs are still filled to 3/4 of their capacity. The problem the water utilities were facing was a consumption and distribution problem. The supply system was practically at the point where it could not handle the demand and where any reserves were depleted. Storage tanks that are filled during night hours with water from the reservoirs for the coming day's demand could not be refilled because of high water usage during those hot and humid nights of last week. With the arrival of cooler temperatures and rain showers, all restrictions could be lifted and the system returned to normal operation. Last week, in an exclusive LMC News interview, village trustee Bess Hofstetter, a Democrat, called for the resignation of 2 top employees of the engineering department. It's all about the firehouse, which was a big political issue in last November's village elections. It is said that it had a strong influence on the outcome, and it still is an issue. Next week, Mayor Paul Nodo, who is a Republican, will give us his view of the controversy. It's official now. The sales tax in Westchester County will go up 1% October 15th of this year. Starting that day, the sales tax enlargement and Mamaroneck on services and goods, where applicable, will be 6 3/4%.
The village of Mamaroneck is taking out the umbrellas. So here's Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Bill Littauer with the facts. Bill?
For the second time this year, the village of Mamaroneck will play host to Umbrella Days. 3 days, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. For those of you who don't know about Umbrella Days, it's a time when the merchants of the village are allowed to display their wares outside in front of their stores, and each store that participates gets an umbrella to sit under. It's a great time to catch real bargains. Merchants of the village love to have umbrella sales, and they always go all out and are always ready to please. Again, the dates are August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Rain date on Monday, August 5th. Umbrella Days is sponsored by the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce. A special thanks to Mary Reed, the co-chairman of the Merchant Division, for helping us get that story straight, and also to Randy Norum. In an attempt to improve the village's services and to get more out of tax dollars, Mamaroneck Village Manager Matthew Galligan has split up the responsibilities for the Parks and Recreation Department. Parks is now part of Public Works. This move is probably not the last, as Galligan, who started in April, is getting more involved in the village's departments in an attempt to deliver better service to taxpayers without adding to the budget.
Ann Olive was driving in a heavy rainstorm. There were 55-mile-per-hour gusts of wind, and on August 29, 1988, while Mrs. Olive was driving down Myrtle Boulevard on her way to pick up her husband at the Larchmont train station, she was struck and killed by a fallen tree. Now, 3 years later, the family of Ann Olive is suing the Mamaroneck town for $35 million. The family intends to prove, through photographs obtained from Con Edison crews, that the tree that killed Mrs. Olive had dead roots and should have been removed long before the accident occurred. The town has claimed the accident was an act of God. Stephen Altieri has been quoted as saying, "We are going to trial is an indication of our attitude toward the case." The trial is scheduled for September 23rd in State Supreme Court in White Plains. Enid?
The Mamaroneck Village Board, in a rare unanimous decision in early July, doubled the parking fines in an effort to raise money and get tough with repeat offenders. But it seems that the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce is finding this a hard pill to swallow. Chamber President Sandy Longy argued that the fines should be rolled back. Longy said the $1.3 million the village will receive from the new 1 percentage point increase in the sales tax makes the new fines no longer necessary. Other ways the village board decided to raise needed revenue were building and fire inspection permits, a tennis day camp, and higher beach and dock fees and marina fees. Continuing our summer segment on Kids in Camp, here is LMC-TV news reporter Jamie Stein. Jamie?
Welcome back to our third edition on Happy Campers. Today on my left I have Justin Bolnick, a 9-year-old happy camper who goes to Camp Brookside in Harrison. So Justin, what time do you go to camp?
We go at 9 o'clock a.m. and we get dismissed at 3:30 a.m.
And how do you get there?
My father or mother drives me.
That's neat. Do you swim at camp?
Yes, we have an indoor pool in the school.
Oh, wow. That's really neat. And do you have swim lessons?
Yeah.
Wow, and what else do you do at camp?
Sometimes we play kickball or wiffle ball, and we play kickball against different age groups.
Do you play baseball there too?
Yes.
And what is the age range from at camp, like 6 to 10 or?
I think it's 4 to 10.
And is this your second year there, or have you been going there a while?
I've been going there a while.
And you really like it?
Yes.
So what's your favorite thing to do there?
Play kickball.
And you have cookouts?
No.
No cookouts? Picnics sometimes?
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. Thanks a lot, Justin, for joining us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. And if you have a camper that would like to be on TV, please call 698-6808, and maybe you can come on the air. Well, Justin, I hope you continue to be a happy camper. So why don't you wave to your family and friends? Thanks for joining us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Jamie Stein.
And that's it for another edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. A reminder that this program can be seen again any weekday night at 7:30 and 12:30, Monday through Friday. And there's a new program starting every Monday.
We are all volunteers here on this program, so if you're looking for a fun summer activity that involves the community, we might be just what you're looking for.
Stop by any Thursday night around 7 p.m. We produce this program in the LMC-TV Studio 1, located across from Walter's Hot Dogs, just up the stairs in the Palmer Avenue unit of the Mamaroneck High School. Thanks for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Arthur Trowbridge.
And I'm Enid Pretter. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Bill Littauer.
And I'm Sven Oehme. Among our top stories, a Larchmont furrier charged with fencing stolen goods.
Should the two top engineers in the village of Mamaroneck be forced to resign? A controversy brewing.
A big change may be in the works in the way Mamaroneck Village handles its garbage.
And our changing demographics. You may be surprised at what the census found out. But first, our top story. The owner of a Larchmont fur shop has been arrested and charged with fencing stolen coats worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Manhattan District Attorney Robert Morgenthau said 46-year-old Anastasios Kotsikas, owner of Furs by Jean-Pierre on Palmer Avenue in Larchmont, was one of 4 men arrested as part of a stolen fur ring. Kotsikas is a resident of Fort Lee, New Jersey. He's being held on $150,000 bail. Morgenthau said the 4 were involved in a number of robberies over the past 8 months. He said surveillance teams and undercover operators saw the stolen coats being sold from the Larchmont store for $1,000 apiece.
The noise coming from jets passing over our communities on their approach to LaGuardia is still a hot topic. The complaints from citizens have now reached Washington, and the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has been directed by the House of Representatives to cooperate with local officials to solve the situation as soon as possible. The FAA was also ordered to include New York and Connecticut in a study on the effects of major air routing changes that were made in 1987.
The mayor of Mamaroneck has responded to a trustee's call for some departmental resignations. For more on that story, here's Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Roger Norum.
Thanks, Bill. On this very program about 2 weeks ago, Beth Hofstetter, the trustee for the village of Mamaroneck, called for the resignation of the village engineer and his assistant. Basically, she charged mismanagement over the repairs that were needed for the volunteer firehouse on Mamaroneck Avenue near the Hess gas station. A recommendation by the engineering department, if implemented by the village, would have cost the village over $200,000. As it turns out, the repairs to the volunteer firehouse to make it usable again appear to be in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $7,000. That disparity is what prompted Mrs. Hofstetter to call for the resignations. But the mayor for the village of Mamaroneck, Paul Noto, says the thing that really started the ball rolling as far as trustee Hofstetter was concerned was the fact that the repair is going to amount to something like $6,000 or $7,000, where the original thought was had the village board gone ahead with this original plan of spending $25,000 and then perhaps $200,000, here it would have been wasteful, if you will.
Well, if we had gotten to that point, but actually what Ms. Sand had recommended...
The difference between $6,000 or $7,000 and $220,000.
It's substantial, but I don't think we ever would have spent $200 forward, and that's where it got kind of confused, because the issue was...
For at the very minimum that an investigation of this whole thing be somehow handled by the board. Do you feel investigation is necessary?
I'm not sure what we would be investigating. I mean, believe me, we've gone through this ad nauseum, and I'm not sure what would be investigated.
Is that it's now in operation, the floor is safe, and...
No, it is open for personnel. People...
Mamaroneck. This all leads up to what promises to be an interesting board meeting next Monday at 8 o'clock in Village Hall.
Thanks, Roger, for keeping us up to date on this story. By the way, for what it's worth, this program had the story first. The first word from Beth Hofstetter calling for the resignations.
A study is underway that may change the way the village of Mamaroneck handles its garbage. Currently, full garbage trucks have to go to Mount Vernon to unload, a 90-minute round trip, which is costly on time, manpower, and equipment. All this could change if the village could use the Maxwell Avenue transfer station in Larchmont. The station would have to double its capacity to handle the additional garbage, but the cost to do so will be picked up by the county. Officials in the village are now waiting for the results of a study that is taking a close look at all effects of using the Maxwell transfer station for the village of Mamaroneck.
It never rains, but it pours inside Mamaroneck High School. A $7.3 million repair job is underway on the roof, but until it's finished, there's going to be a lot of soaking going on. Principal James Coffey's office has been hit. Employees have to put buckets out to catch the drips and plastic out to protect carpets and desks in the third-floor offices.
Mamaroneck police stopped 6 people charged with robbing a vehicle in New Rochelle of $1,000 worth of stereo and other equipment. The 6 were reportedly trying to escape in 2 cars when village police stopped them after hearing descriptions of the getaway cars in the robbery.
The Mamaroneck Town Police have taken delivery of 3 new patrol cars, and residents will apparently have to get used to a new, sleeker version of the cop cars. They're Chevrolet Caprices, but they are supposed to be less boxy and more rounded with a quieter, more fuel-efficient design. The cost was pretty efficient, too, just $13,200 each, including the usual police modifications for heavy wear, accurate speedometers, and emergency warning systems.
If you follow statistics, Mamaroneck Town is older than Mamaroneck Village. The 1990 census shows that the median age in the town increased from 1980, where it was 36.9 years, to 38.2 years in 1990. For the village, the increase in median age was not as strong. The village's median age increased to 37.5 years in 1990, up from 37.1 years in 1980. The census numbers show that the village's population decreased by about 300 persons to 17,300. The town lost about 1,300 persons and had about 27,700 residents in 1990. A Larchmont auctioneer has been sued by at least 5 of his clients recently, according to a report in the Gannett suburban newspapers. Gary Guano of Westchester Auctions at 711 North Avenue chalks it up to a few unhappy customers out of the 400 to 500 he deals with every year. The suits all involved sums the customers claim Guano was either slow in paying for their goods or that he refused to pay at all. All but one of the complaints cited by the paper were settled out of court.
It took 2 years, but the dust has finally settled and the debris cleared at the Larchmont Synagogue, and the result is a space for a nursery school and much improved facilities. The job at the Beth Emeth Synagogue cost about $170,000 for its kitchen, bathroom, social service area, and Hebrew school classrooms.
It was fun, and it raised money for the dilapidated beach pavilion in Harbor Island Park. A benefit softball game between the King, Eddie Feiner, and his court touring group, and a local Mamaroneck team was watched by about 1,000 spectators. The more than $1,000 collected throughout the event will go towards the rebuilding of the beach pavilion. The only bad news, our local Mamaroneck team lost the game.
And now, here's another edition of our special segment on Kids at Camp. For that report, we call on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jamie Stein.
Welcome back to our 4th edition on Kids at Camp. With me right now, I have 3 campers that go to Mohawk Day Camp in White Plains. So, can you tell me your names? This is?
Matt. Julie. Spencer.
And what do you guys like to do at Mohawk? What do you like to do, Matt?
I like to do soccer.
Soccer? Wow. And Julie, what do you like to do?
Swimming.
You like to swim. And Spence, what do you like to do?
Baseball.
Wow. 2 land sports. What are the names of your groups? Spence, what's the name of your group?
Cayuga Rangers.
And what's yours, Julie?
Pueblo.
And what's yours?
Red Scout.
Wow. Can you tell me, can any one of you guys tell me if there's any special days at camp?
Yeah, there's a carnival.
And anything else? Do you have Crazy Hat Day?
Yeah.
Did you already have it?
And tomorrow's my stuffed animal.
Wow. And what are you going to bring?
My Celeste.
Oh, wow. And did you notice that the girls wear the white Mohawk t-shirts and the boys wear the gray ones? And this is what you wear every day, guys?
Yeah.
Neat. Do you ever have any barbecues or picnics?
Yeah.
And what do you like to eat?
Hot dogs. Hamburgers.
What do you like, Julie?
Hamburger.
Neat. Can you tell me any other things about camp? What time do you go?
4.
You get off at 4? Or you get home at 4?
I get home at 5.
What? Oh, wow. That's a long day for all of you? And you take a camel to camp, right?
After my second swim, I go home. 2 o'clock.
Oh, Julie, you go home earlier, right? Because you're so big. And you take a camel to camp, right? Is that how you get to camp?
No, I go home after my second swim.
Neat. And you take a bus? Okay. All right, you guys, let's everybody wave to your family and friends. Thanks for joining us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Jamie Stein.
56-year-old Howard Rubin has been designated to assume the job of principal of Rhine-Neck Middle School for the next 6 months. The selection committee had more than 100 applicants and interviewed 22 candidates, but decided none had the experience and background they were looking for. Rubin was an assistant principal in the Blind Brook schools and principal in Croton-on-Hudson. He will get $350 a day as the interim principal at Rhine-Neck. Bill?
And that's our report for this week. I'm Bill Littauer. We hope you'll join us again next week, same time on Channel 36.
And I'm Sven Oehme. If you'd like to join us in reporting, writing, or producing this program, why not drop by Thursday night about 7:30? We're in the Palmer Avenue building of the high school, across the street from Walter's Hot Dogs.
Whether you're in front of the camera or in front of your television set, we'll look for you again next week.
That's different because although some people think we have jurisdiction in New Jersey, we don't always. And we've turned that information over to the Wayne police. They are investigating it, but a couple of these defendants are suspects in that case.
Did they try that kind of a modus operandi anywhere in New York?
I don't think anything is quite as brutal as that. But we think a couple of these people were involved, and we've turned that information over to the Wayne police.
Could you repeat for us again the MO that these men used?
I mean, a man and woman would go into a store toward the end of the day, pose as customers, ask to see furs or fur coats, then pull a pistol, tie up the people who were serving them, and then go into the back and find out who else was there, tie them up, and then there would be additional members of the gang waiting outside, and they'd come out and then clean out the store. And then the furs were being fenced at the store in Larchmont.
And they were taking
Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill Littauer. Among the top stories on this week's edition, was that a riot going on in downtown Mamaroneck? We have exclusive video.
It may cost a bit more to quench your thirst in Larchmont and Mamaroneck. We'll have an exclusive interview.
An area service station owner finds out the high cost of pollution.
Does an abortion sign come under a village zoning law?
A new home for the homeless in the village of Larchmont.
And West Side Story finally hits the big time at the Emmeline. Those stories and more on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. First, some called it a near riot. 2 Saturdays ago, about 150 people crowded nearly out of control for a period of time near the corner of Mamaroneck Avenue and Waverly. Fighting broke out and a youth was thrown through a plate glass window. Mamaroneck Village Police Chief Joseph Del Bianco spoke to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Chief Del Bianco told us that it was hot and heavy for a time. 3 people were arrested, 2 people with minor injuries, and they still don't know what sparked the trouble after a group of youths left a party at the Elks Lodge on Madison Street. It took 25 police officers to restore order from the village of Mamaroneck, and police from Harrison and Mamaroneck Town and the Metro North Commuter Railroad Police were needed to disperse the crowd. Someone said they heard gunshots being fired, and a hole was noticed in a train station billboard. About 70 youths were chased and then escorted back to their home train station in Portchester by Metro North Police. By the way, our thanks to Greg Fetterbush for the video of this news event, and it's probably an appropriate time here to remind you that we would like to see your video of an event you think our community would like to see. Just isolate about a minute of what you think is best and bring it down to the LMC-TV studios and tell them it's for the news program. We'd love to see it. Bill?
It may have seemed like a small leak in his basement, but it turned into a $35,000 problem for a Larchmont service station owner. Joe Sperano reportedly pumped water from the basement of his J&F Chatsworth service station into Vine Street last May. But the town of Mamaroneck charges it wasn't just water. It was Waste oil from a broken tank in the basement was mixed with the water, and it all spilled into a storm drain at Vine and Depot Way. So far, Sperano says he has paid $32,000 to clean up the street and a $3,000 fine. The town had slapped him with 4 violations, and Sperano says that is making a bigger deal out of the matter than it warrants. He says no more than 100 gallons of oil spilled into the drain. But his troubles may not be over yet. Now the county is considering whether it should press charges as well. Roger?
This fall, public hearings will be held over possibly regulating the use of Harbor Island. Some even refer to it now as our area's tarnished jewel. The Recreation and Parks Commission for the village is asking for your ideas. And Commission member Anne Marie Tyrone spoke with Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Lynn Goodman.
I'm here with Anne Marie Tyrone, who's vice chairperson of the Parks and Recreations Commissions of the Mamaroneck Village. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So what's all this talk about Harbor Island Park being too crowded?
Well, over the past several months, and it's really been going on now more than a year, the demand for use of our parks in general has been on the increase. It's getting to the point now where demand is far greater than space available and also time slots available. And because of this, the Commission is considering the possibility of the need to permit all organized groups that use our facilities. Another problem that we've been hearing about a lot is the poor conditions of our fields. Some of them are in such poor shape that they're becoming safety hazards. The fields need to be maintained. That costs money. And that's why the thought of possibility of introducing user fees has come up amongst Commission members. And also user fees could be applied to the general maintenance of our parks.
What is the procedure now for getting a position on the field there?
Okay, if an organized group wants to use a particular field for games, they apply for a permit, which is obtained from the Parks and Recreation Department. Most permits come before the Commission for approval. Minor permits are approved by the department itself.
And what are some of the proposals?
Sports teams use the park. Some different religious groups ask to use the park. For example, the Kiwanis Club has their antique car show and so forth. It's a wide range. Schools have picnics at the end of the year and so forth.
So who will have to pay these fees?
Well, obviously it's the people who will be using the parks is a suggestion that will have to pay these fees. However, we haven't come to any conclusions. Our purpose right now is to investigate, and that's what we're in the process of doing.
And when are you're holding hearings on the matter?
Yes, we're going to hold 2 public hearings. The first will be on Tuesday, September 24th, and the second on Wednesday, October 2nd. They will be at 8 p.m. in Village Hall in the courtroom. We're inviting the public to attend and to come and share their ideas, their concerns. We want to assess what their needs are and so forth. And it's not until we've had these public hearings that we will come to any kind of conclusions.
Thanks, Lynn Goodman, and our thanks to Anne Marie Tyrone of the Mamaroneck Village Parks and Recreation Commission for being with us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. In case you didn't know it, we buy our water here in Larchmont and Mamaroneck from, believe it or not, New York City. And the price of turning on that spigot could be going up soon. For more on the subject, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme.
In our studio today is John Hawk, manager of the Westchester Joint Waterworks. Welcome on our news program, John. A couple of weeks ago we had water restrictions in our area. What was the reason for those restrictions? And also it was a bit confusing.
Well, we had an extended long hot period. And when we have that kind of a situation, homeowners and our golf course customers tend to sprinkle and irrigate their facilities quite extensively. And not only we, but the other utilities here in Westchester County all experienced that. That led us to put voluntary restrictions into effect. And those restrictions went into effect on July 16th. And I believe it was Friday, July 19th, because of the seriousness of the situation, with demands exceeding the capacities of the various utilities. The Westchester County Health Department instituted mandatory restrictions, which remained in effect until the following Monday. They were then lifted, and that caused some confusion because our original voluntary restrictions remained in effect.
And are still in effect today? Or?
Yes, they're still in effect today.
Where do we get our water from?
We buy all of our water from New York City, and we take it at 2 locations, Shaft 22 of the Delaware Aqueduct, which is in Yonkers, and directly out of Kensico Reservoir.
Now, recently prices went up in this area. What was the reason for that increase?
Yes, they did. We had rate increases in each of our member municipalities, which includes the town of Harrison and the town and village of Mamaroneck. And those rate increases were required because of some capital improvements that we have to make in order to comply with new Safe Drinking Water Act requirements, which have been adopted by the New York State Health Department.
Are there any further increases coming in the future, or?
Yes, I think we have to look to further increases. For example, we just experienced, or will be experiencing, an increase in wholesale water costs from New York City. The city just advised all the utilities in Westchester County last Friday at an informational meeting that they plan to raise their wholesale rates to the Westchester communities by about 62%, which translates to our customers to about a 5% additional cost increment.
Thanks, Sven, for that watered-down report. Bill?
If you had a fur stored at Furs by Jean-Pierre in Larchmont, you should be able to get your piece back despite the arrest of the store owner. 46-year-old Anastasios Kotsikas has been charged with being part of a gang that stole hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of furs. But Manhattan District Attorney Robert Morgenthau says the store has been reopened by a partner, and police are advising customers to contact the store. Incidentally, the original Jean-Pierre sold the store 2 years ago because of a heart condition and returned to Europe.
Could saving Long Island Sound mean killing economic development on the Sound shore? Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter John Heffernan has more.
Next week, federal and state officials will be meeting to talk over the possibility of imposing an immediate cap on the amount of nitrogen that flows into Long Island Sound from sewage. Nitrogen is a major pollutant of the Sound, and a cap could force Westchester County to impose a moratorium on any development in the 10 Sound Shore communities. Mamaroneck Village Mayor Paul Noto feels a nitrogen cap on sewage in the Sound is a good idea, but isn't sure if a development moratorium is the way to go about it, especially in the midst of a recession. No doubt we'll be hearing more about nitrogen, the Long Island Sound, and development in the weeks ahead.
Thanks, John Heffernan, for that story. Bill?
Mamaroneck Town and Village Police teamed up last week to capture a stolen car suspect. Town Police Officer Chris Saline tried to stop a black 1987 Sterling for a traffic violation on the Post Road a week ago Sunday. When the driver refused to stop, Saline radioed Village Police for help. Roadblocks were set up as police pressed the chase. Finally, the driver crashed into the chain-link fence at the Westchester Jewish Center at Prospect Avenue. 20-year-old Pedro Diaz of Crotona Avenue, the Bronx, was arrested. He was charged with car theft and stealing 3 credit cards. Roger.
The story of a burglary, some teacher rehiring, and an anniversary celebration. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jamie Stein with the details.
A woman on Mamaroneck Avenue surprised a burglar in her apartment just in time before he was leaving with her VCR and a disc player. But the thief was able to get away with an undisclosed amount of cash. The suspect in the case turned himself in at the police station later that evening after he had heard that the police were looking for him. Also, Mamaroneck hired 2 elementary teachers that were laid off last spring. The rehiring became possible after other teachers retired. And in other news, the Southeast Consortium for Special Services celebrated its 10th anniversary and was presented with a special proclamation by Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Caroline Silverstone. The consortium has its office at the Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road. It provides therapeutic recreation for those who are disabled. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Jamie Stein.
Thanks, Jamie Stein, for those reports. Bill?
Should homes be reassessed more often? Apparently not, if you ask people in Larchmont. Former trustee John Berry says that if you only do 75 or so homes a year, some homes will carry an inordinately high tax rate. The last town-wide assessment was done in 1968. And village and town assessor Ross Valenza says it's impossible to review every parcel every year. And the prospect isn't very appealing anyway. Trustee Cheryl Louie says she's quite happy with the 1968 assessment when homes sold for 1/6 their current value, or even less.
Another Mamaroneck Village controversy is brewing, this time over abortion, or more specifically, an abortion sign in front of Holy Trinity Church on Boston Post Road. The 8-by-4-foot sign has been up for some time now and generated some complaints to village officials. Pastor of Holy Trinity, the Reverend Joseph Irwin, believes in being confrontational when it comes to matters such as abortion.
Father Irwin, the sign in front of your church, it's rather controversial. Why did you put it there?
Well, first of all, the sign simply states a medical fact that abortion stops a beating heart. Since 1973, more than 27 million unborn babies have been killed through the abortion industry. We have sat quietly by and allowed this to happen. I put the sign out there to awaken an awareness in the community of Mamaroneck of the terrible Holocaust and slaughter of innocent unborn children that is happening all around us.
What sort of response have you gotten from your neighbors to the sign in front of the church?
It's been a mixed response, but I'm very gratified that the response of my own parish of Most Holy Trinity has been very positive and very supportive.
Mm-hmm. I understand up the street at the Methodist Church, the Reverend Shalady, I think that's how his name is pronounced. Anyway, the rector of the Methodist Church feels that abortion should be considered a private matter and that this should not be plastered out in front of the post road such as it is.
The killing of innocent life can never be a private matter. It must be the concern of the community and especially of the churches within the community. And if the Reverend Shillady is saying that the destruction of an unborn child is a private matter, then he is preaching a different gospel than the one I preach.
What about the village officials? Have they said anything to you about the sign?
The village officials have spoken about the village ordinance, and they have clarified the issue with me, and I'm taking counsel right now. But what I would like to ask the village officials, if they have asked every other church to seek a permit for their sign, and I'd like to ask the village officials if anyone would be offended if the sign on our lawn said bingo or Las Vegas night. And is it the sign that disturbs people, or is it the message on the sign which reminds us of the cruel truth that abortion stops beating heart of an innocent unborn child?
As for the official village position, it's from the Pontius Pilate rule book. The village building inspector, Ernie Posha, says he has no jurisdiction over that sign, so let it be. And as far as Father Irwin at Holy Trinity Church is concerned, that's just what he plans to do. Let it be right where it is, and he says he has no plans to remove it.
2 homeless families may get to celebrate Thanksgiving in a new house thanks to a nonprofit Larchmont group called iCare. The renovation of the house at 2 Woodland Avenue next to the railroad tracks is the first project of the Interfaith Council for Affordable Residence. Former town supervisor Dolores Battaglia is president of the board of directors. It's not a small project. The house was bought for $219,000 and will undergo $40,000 worth of renovations. Unlike some other such projects around the county, this one was not opposed by neighbors. In fact, they applauded the effort and spirit of the organization.
Does Larchmont need another fire truck? Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme with the story.
Larchmont Fire Chief James Sweeney has asked the village board to buy a second fire truck within just a year. The total expense for the 2 trucks will be $450,000. What seems to be at least surprising at first glance may yet be a reasonable, even though expensive, step to take. The first truck approved in November was to replace a fire engine acquired in 1971. But now a truck dating back to 1958 has proven to be very unreliable and even dangerous. One volunteer firefighter was disabled for 8 months after a malfunctioning of the truck. The village's fire trucks may look shining and gleaming on the outside, but age has taken its toll on the mechanical parts. The fire chief has asked the village to approve the purchase of the second truck because he wants his men to be able to work with equipment that does not pose additional hazards in an already very, very dangerous job.
It was destroyed by fire in 1926, but now it will be remembered with a memorial monument placed on the spot 65 years later. It was the Weaver Street Church at the intersection of Weaver and Palmer Avenue. Lawyer, town historian, and former councilman Burton Megan remembered the little church built in 1870 and remembered the town had promised to put up a marker in 1940, but had never delivered. Now, 51 years later, he got the town to live up to that promise with a plain 2-foot-tall granite memorial.
There hasn't been all that much rain this summer, but that's not going to stop area merchants from their umbrella days. Our own Sven Oehme has details.
At the end of this week, it's time again for Umbrella Days enlargement. They're on this week, Thursday through Saturday, August 15th to 17th. A rain date is August 19th. And we'd like to remind you that we are still looking for a consumer reporter, someone who is a shopping pro, who knows where the bargains are, and who is willing to share that information. So if you're interested in the Enlargement Umbrella Days, maybe the chance to get started is here.
Thanks, Sven. Bill?
Mamaroneck Free Library is taking steps to become a special library district. With more on this story, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Arthur Trowbridge.
In an attempt to raise its current budget, the Mamaroneck Free Library is trying to become a special library district. This special district would help the library realize its funding through the use of real property taxes. Well, this has some Mamaroneck residents concerned because their already high property taxes may go up even higher. I recently spoke with Joan Grott, director of the Mamaroneck Free Library, to find out more on this subject. Can you tell us a little bit about what this library district actually is, Joan?
A library district is a form of library in New York State that basically takes the power, the library, and gives it to the people. The people begin to have more say about how the library is run because they get to decide on the budget.
We spoke to some people about this new special district, and they're concerned that perhaps it may raise their already high property taxes that they're experiencing now. Will this raise taxes, or will this just redistribute the money that is already there?
It's going to redistribute because what it is really we are already tax supported. The village gives us about $700,000. And what happens now is that we're going to be coming out of the village will not decide on what the budget is. It will be two lines now. The village will just will drop us from their tax line. They do not have to collect the taxes for us.
So then the village board will no longer have a say in exactly how much money you get. This will go out to a vote to the people, and the people will decide?
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, when is this special district supposed to go into effect, or when does the vote take place?
The vote takes place in the beginning of December, and if it's passed, the referendum passes, then we'll go into effect of June 1st, 1992.
And what do you do in the event that this special district doesn't pass through the people in the town and village of Mamaroneck?
We will continue to get our tax money from the village, and the 5 people will decide what we get rather than the whole community.
Thanks, Arthur Trowbridge, for that report. Roger?
Coming soon to the Emlyn Theater for the Performing Arts. Live and direct from Broadway, Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News spoke with the director of the show, Alberto Guzman.
Between myself and my assistant Joe Langworth, we've performed West Side Story all over the world. This is the 5th time that I put the show together. And I think we're going to be the most rewarding for the fact that it's the first time that I've done it with kids. It's usually I have people my age trying to play, teenagers or young adults, and this is the first time that I have a group of teenagers playing themselves. And because of the show is so passionate, they themselves have gotten very involved in it, and I think that we're going to pull it off. I've used most of the Robbins choreography, and I think everybody should come out and see it because it's going to be very rewarding.
Our thanks to Alice Modell for getting the video on this homegrown edition of West Side Story that will be at the Emlyn Theater this next Thursday through Sunday, August 15th through the 18th. There's even a matinee on Sunday. Call the Emlyn Theater for more details and bring the whole family. Bill?
And that's it for another edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. A couple reminders. If you missed any part of this program, you can catch it again any weekday at 7:30 and 12:30. And better yet, if you're looking for a fun community activity to get involved in, we're fun, we're an activity, and most important, we're all about this community. We're all volunteers, and you don't have to necessarily be a reporter or news anchor. We have plenty to do behind the scenes, and we could use your ideas.
Drop by on a Thursday night around 7 o'clock in the Palmer Avenue building of the high school. We are right up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dogs, and we'd love to see you. Thanks for watching Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill Littauer. We'll look for you again next week, same time on Channel 36.